Hello.
This is Nim, Associate Game Designer, Lead Balancer, and QA Lead for Tower Defense Simulator, and I, today, have been given the opportunity to interview him. In this interview, we cover many things, including bugs, balance, QA, Mecha Base, and much, much more, so stick around to the end. Also, very quick note, do not harass anyone included in this video. If you have disagreements, that's fine. It's okay to have opinions. However, those opinions should be expressed in a respectful manner. Harassment only further limits avenues of communication. Also, please note that this video was recorded before the February 11th Valentine's update. So a lot of stuff mentioned here has actually already released, including many tower bounces. Anyway, enough stalling. On to the interview. Question 1. What is your name and what do you do?
My name is Nimothy. My IRL name I would prefer not share, mostly due to recent events and updates, but also because, anonymity is better on the internet most of the time. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Most people know me as Nim. Some of my friends might call me other things, but for the most part, that's what you'll see me as on most platforms.
Interesting. So, can you go into any further detail on what your position as a game designer entails?
Yeah, so for the most part, as on the design side, I usually just kind of review other stuff that other designers do. Sometimes I pitch my own ideas in, depending on what we're designing. Most of my actual design choices are done for Alter Ego and not TDS. I have had a pretty good amount of input on TDS, especially more recently, but for the most part, a lot of my actual design choices are for Ego. If I had to point one out, I did a lot of the chase mode stuff, the LMS stuff, the kind of soft reworks to a lot of the mechanics that we did. On the TDS side, I did help design the narrator boss for the final act. So that was pretty cool. I helped with the helping figure out how we wanted to go about the tower balances in the recent update, and because at the end of the day, right, even just stat changes are stuff that you have to think about when you do game design, right? There's a lot of nuance that goes into that stuff, because everything you change in the game that affects the user experience is really part of game design at its core, right? Game design as a whole is a lot more complex and nuanced than people would like to give it credit for, I would like to say. And it's not really a white or black or white thing, right? Yeah. There is more
It's not just punch
than
numbers
meets the eye with that kind of stuff, and there are design philosophies, right? For example, when we balance a tower or we make a tower rebalance, we don't just kind of put numbers in and whatever works. There's actually a level of thought that goes into it, how will this tower play in the context of the surrounding meta? How will it be utilized, right? What will people use this tower for, right? And sometimes, we ask those questions and we get answers that maybe people don't like. If I had to point out an example, I'd probably say Frost Blaster was a good one. We asked ourselves a question with that one, what's a good way to make this tower viable without including freeze, and there's a lot of reasons why we removed it, but I think at the end of the day, people just don't like that change, and that's the kind of feedback that we have to be receptive to and find a good middle ground for.
Kind of stole some of the later questions, but it's all right. We'll talk about balance and alter ego as well pretty soon. So, another thing, are you satisfied with your current position? Is there anything you think you would change if you could?
I'm pretty satisfied. I think that when it comes to my position, if there was anything I was going to change about it, I would maybe say it would be nicer to have a little bit better control over the QA program, right? And what I mean by that is I wish we had better tools for QA testing, because a large part of my position goes beyond just design, right? I'm also in charge of the QA program, and making sure that the QA program runs smoothly and flourishes is important, because QA testing it's the backbone of a game's end product, right?
Yeah, if it doesn't work in testing, it doesn't work.
And I do think our QA team is very talented. A lot of them do a lot of work for us, and really they shouldn't be, right? Because the whole program at the end of the day is voluntary, but they still do it out of love and passion for the game. And I mean, that's where I started, right? Because I was a QA tester for a long time before I got promoted.
That was actually what I was going to ask next, which is I'm aware you used to be a TDS moderator. So how do you feel about the position in hindsight, and do you believe any of those connections you made there helped you further your position into QA balancing / QA lead, and now developer?
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings on, I guess, like Discord moderation in general. When I first became like a TDS mod, I was literally like 14, 15 years old. This was like a long time ago. And I mostly applied kind of like, not as a joke, but like just as kind of like a one-off thing, like, okay, I'll just do this and whatever comes of it, right? And then I actually got accepted, and I was like, well, okay, then that was unexpected. But I would like to say that, like, if I hadn't been accepted, I don't know if I would be where I was right now, because back then, how QA used to work is that if you were a mod, you would get added to QA, right? And that's how I got into QA. I was never, like, added to QA through a referral. I was never, like, added to QA as part of, like, an application. Like, I was literally just brought in because I was a mod at the time. And when I first got into QA, I wasn't really interested in it, actually. My early experience with QA was kind of just like testing things sometimes, but not really being invested in it. It wasn't until, like, I want to say around Solar Eclipse that I started to really actually put a lot of effort into my feedback, because at that point I was really kind of getting ready to stop being a moderator. I just kind of got disinterested in it. I did eventually go back to being a mod, but I wasn't very active because of school. But I would like to say that I stopped being a mod around like late 2021, early 2022. And at that point I was still in QA, and I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll give this a shot, right? And try to actually learn like how QA functions. And that's kind of when I started making my own tower balances and getting interested in the balancing process. And, you know, it's interesting because I really did make an effort to actually like understand how the game worked. And that's kind of also when I started to play it a lot more and get like, I guess, good at it and actually figure out how the game functions at a base level. Because you'll notice that a lot of the people who are really good at this game tend to understand how it works, right? Like they really, they really take the time. But like, you know what I mean by that? Like they really take the time to learn the intricacies and like the mechanics of the game, right? Yeah. That's kind of like what I was doing around that time. So my pipeline, I guess you could say, was like, at first I was a moderator, and then I was like, I think a senior mod for a little bit. But then after I retired from that, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just start doing QA stuff now. And then I got really interested in it. And around like late 2023, early 2024, Tom was kind of starting to think about who he wanted to replace him as a QA lead, right? And I don't really recall if there were a lot of contenders back then, but I was pretty not, I'm not like close with Tom, but you know, we were friends and we talked a lot. So from time to time we had common interests. So I think the thing that he saw was that compared to other testers, I was a lot more passionate about maintaining the game's proper balance, right? And I think he decided that maybe I would be the best pick. I'm not entirely sure what his thought process on was that. Or sorry, I'm not entirely sure what his thought process was.
If you like ask him, I bet he.
I could ask him, but I think it was mostly just like they needed someone to take his place, right? And I was the most available at the time. But that eventually spiraled. That decision spiraled because that was around the time that development on TDS really shifted, right? It went from like, you know, updates every so often to, you know, updates weekly to bi-weekly, right? And at that point, there was a huge change in development, and they started to need more heads for not only just like, you know, QA testing, but also like design and stuff. And around like late 2024 is when I received my first message from below, which was about the possibility of QA leads receiving proper compensation through payment, right? And that's when I started getting paid. I was still only a QA lead, but that's when I started getting paid to do this. And at the time, I treated it mostly as like a second job, because I did have an actual job on top of it. But you know, it was still cool to do what I had been doing before and, get paid to do it, right? Because I'm a huge fan of TDS personally. I think that the game has amazing potential, even if,
Yeah, it seems
some...
like a dream position for a lot of people to just be able to like work on a game that they love, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I really enjoy working on this game. I think it's a lot of fun, and I do put a lot of time into the decisions I make. But going back to the question, after that, I still kind of did what I was doing for most of 2025, just maintaining my position, working whenever I could. And then around like late 2025, I was actually offered the position of associate game designer, which is basically like just junior game designer, right? And that's when I was promoted to a developer, and that's still what I do now. I do still do QA management, but I kind of jump between the two, right? So yeah, that's like my pipeline from moderation to QA. But I guess if you wanted me to ask like the first question, I kind of went off on a tangent. Personally, I think if you enjoy like the community side of things and you want to be a moderator, then you should go for it. I think the moderation team has gotten a lot better probably since I was on it, right? Because I've had my issues with it in the past, but I can't imagine that I would never discourage someone from doing something that they find interesting, right? And I think that a large part of my reason for not liking it was because I just wasn't really interested in Discord moderation after so much time, right?
Yeah.
But I think that if you really do care about the community and the applications are open and you are fit for it, right, then you should go for it. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it at first. I got bored of it. I started to jump more on the QA side of things after that, and that's kind of where I found my common ground with my place within the game, right?
Kind of already answered my next question here, which is what does the position mean to you and its impact and relevance? I think you kind of already basically stated your impact on the game.
I could elaborate on that. Yeah, no. This position means to me is I think that like not even just me, but like the position of like QA lead, and like anything related to QA management in general. There's a lot more that goes into that than people might think, right? Like being a QA tester essentially means that you are like I said, you are the backbone of this game, right? Like all of these updates hinge on being tested, and I know that like not every single thing that goes out needs to be tested, but there is still a level of quality control that has to be done, especially for balance changes, right? And having a lot of heads to actually look at that and give varying feedback is important, right? And I would like to say that we've done a lot better of a job recently with quality control than we have in the past. Obviously, there have been some recent balance changes that are controversial. That's just a product of such a large update coming out not too long ago, but for the most part, I think, we've gotten the feedback that
we've got a few questions about that update down the road as well.
Yeah, we've gotten the feedback from that update that we needed, and I'm pretty sure I've made some posts about it, but we are kind of aiming up to do an extra set of changes pretty soon to address some of the feedback from that update.
Oh, that's something to look forward to then. Anyway, just generally, if you had to sum up your job in say like a sentence or two, would you say that you are basically a Tooltip developer and the community scapegoat for Nerfs?
Tooltip developer. That's a phrase that is used. Well, I do update tower information and like all of the miscellaneous stuff quite a bit, but no, I'm not a Tooltip developer. Because if you boiled my position down to that, then everyone would be a Tooltip developer. Scapegoat, maybe. I have seen a lot of feedback for this update. I've seen a lot of comments on this update with my name in them. I think at the end of the day, right, the most positive way you can put it is that people want someone to point fingers at when they don't like a change. And that's fine, right? It's okay to not like something in an update. I know I've had my own comments on other games, right? I think a lot of these comments that people make don't come from a place of negative intent, more so passion, right? Because at the end of the day, people who play this game are going to have their opinion on how the game plays, right?
Right.
And that's okay. There's no there's no ill reservations in that. And I think that people should make their opinion known, even if I disagree with it, right? Because, like, when you make the standard for development that feedback is not taken, even if that feedback is important, you kind of lose the ability to. I guess a better way I could say this is you create an echo chamber, right? That's the thing that I really want to avoid, especially with QA and QA balancing. I don't want balancing to be something that is essentially an echo chamber, right? I want balancing to be productive. Because, like, thing is, I play this game. Not a lot, and that's more even nearly as close as much as I used to, right? But I do play this game, so when I play TDS, there have been times where I've been like, wow, this thing sucks, right? And that's just my player side speaking, right? I'll look at something, I'll be like, wow, this sucks, and then in my head I'll think about, like, well, I wonder what other people think of this, right? And at that point, that's when I kind of start to put a little bit more emphasis on actually gathering that feedback and making sure that said thing plays well for everyone.
Well, you definitely took my question and ran with it in a way I did not expect. I was kind of trying to get like a good joke out of that, but that actually ended up better than I could have thought. So, good on you.
Well, you asked me for an interview, so I gave you one.
Fair enough. All right, this is a lot of these are introductory, but Jesus, you definitely like kind of ran with them to make them really long-winded. So I guess this will keep going. This one's pretty simple. How'd you get into TDS, and were there any other games you played before?
This is a funny one. So, before TDS, well, the time I got into TDS was around the pandemic, right? 2020. I did play it briefly before. I played the Christmas update for 2019, but it was like literally for like 30 minutes, and then I was like, this game is boring, and I left. But when I actually,
who can ever guess what would have happened later on?
Yeah. What actually happened though is around the time of the 2020 egg hunt, I had a few friends who were really invested in the Roblox egg hunt, and I was kind of outside of the Roblox sphere at that point. Like, I had played it when I was younger, but I had kind of grown out of it, right? Mm-hmm. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well, sure, I'll do the egg hunt because my friends are doing it, but I don't really play Roblox, right? Well, there was a game in the egg hunt called Tower Defense Simulator, and I played it once, and I was like, oh, I played this before, and I thought it was boring. And I played it again. I did the easy mode for the egg hunt to get the, like, egg stack item or whatever it's called. I can't remember. It was that, like, head. You know what I'm talking about, probably.
It was like the yellow head, yeah.
Yeah, but I played it again, and I still thought it was just, like, okay. It didn't really, like, knock my socks off or anything, but for some reason, later that summer, my friend kept telling me, like, oh, I got really into this game because of the egg hunt, and it's a lot of fun. Like you should actually play with me. And, you know, in my head, I was like, I mean, sure. I didn't really enjoy the game, like, a bunch, but I figured, like, I mean, it's fine for me to, like, you know, just give it another shot, right? And I found myself actually really enjoying the game the more I played it and the more I actually leveled up and progressed. And it's really funny because, see, the way that I play games is that if I find them enjoyable within, like, the first, like, 24 hours or so of playing them, I get really hyperfixated, right? Like, if I have fun with a game, then I do grind it a lot. So, literally, like, I think I have screenshots. If you want me to later, I can go find them.
What?
Oh, yeah, I activated Hidden Wave, by the way.
Okay. A bit of a little surprise there, I guess. Okay.
But, yeah, anyway... So what I was saying is that, so like typically when I get into a game, I really like get into it and I try to understand it. But like literally within like a month or so of playing, I had already done Hidden Wave. I had already like learned how to solo Fallen. I had Golden Cowboy, which was like the best tower back then, right? During the 526 era. I was really into the game. I actually at one point had world record for Hidden Wave. It was like literally for a day before someone else got it. But,
the fleeting pleasures of world records, they never fucking last.
I felt pretty good about myself for that one day. But yeah, that was really cool to get into the game that much. And then the sad thing is that unfortunately when the hardcore update came out, that friend who I was playing with was like, wow, this shit's ass, and quit. And he's one of my IRL friends. I still talk to him from time to time. He's in college nowadays, so it's kind of hard for us to talk about the game and play it, right? But he did hop on a few times, and he knows that I work here now, which is pretty cool.
How are we gonna survive this, by the way, little?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Okay then.
But yeah, basically I got into the game mostly because one of my area friends was playing it, and I think like that was around the time that I also applied for Moderator, because I think like when I started to actually get into the game, the mod applications were just happened to be open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in my head I was like, oh, okay, well I'll just do this. We might be fine actually, low-key.
Unless tanks like murder us, they got like 40k HP now.
Oh, here, I'll just do this. There we go, we're fine.
Or said do that.
But yeah, yeah, so like that's also when the mod applications opened, and I was like, okay, well I'll just try this and apply for it, and I got accepted. And yeah, I was just chilling, playing the game for the most part back then. Whoa, those are white squares. Oh yeah, that's like the hitbox bug. Yeah, I have seen that bug actually. But yeah, that's kind of when I really got into the game, and I still steadily kind of played it throughout 2021, 2022. Not as much as I like really grinded it in 2020. Like I don't think I've ever played TDS more in 1 year outside of like testing the game right than I did in 2020. That was like the most that I've ever, I think, grinded any Roblox game. I've definitely grinded non-Roblox games before. Like part of your question was what games was I playing before?
Yeah.
For the most part, during the pandemic, it was a lot of Call of Duty Zombies. I was really into that a lot during the pandemic. That's what me and my friends were playing. I also played a lot of Fortnite, but that's because I was like, what, 13 back then? So that was like my shit. Let me look at like what other games I was playing. I was playing GTA 5 during the pandemic.
At that point.
Yeah, I was playing a lot of GTA 5 as well. Mostly just like a lot of mainstream stuff, right? Just stuff that me and my friends hopped on, and we were like, oh, this is fun. Yeah, that was what I was doing back then, and then TDS kind of took a place in my life, and I was like, wow, this game is something I'm actually going to dedicate a lot of time to.
That's very interesting. Surprised you actually got in. Like I guess if 2020 really was like a big way for people to get in TDS. I've noticed like a lot of modern players I talked to say that their introduction was that egg hunt. So,
I mean, yeah, that was like the first major event I think TDS was in. Like they had like the what's it called? Like the what was that event called? Area 51, like the spotlight thing that Roblox used to do. But I think the first like big event was the egg hunt. So a lot of people probably got into the game around that time, I would like to imagine.
That's very interesting.
My loadout looks so fucking stupid. If you showed this to someone like literally 3 weeks ago, they'd be like, "What the fuck is that?"
All right, that was a great segue into the next question, which is: explain to the best of your ability what does the balancing process look like for towers and game modes.
Okay. Well, you know the answer to this question, but I'll explain it.
I do. For the viewers,
I'll start with game modes because those are the more like nuanced ones with a lot more thought put into them. Usually for a game mode, we'll make a document for it, right? And we format it a very specific way. I'll actually give you permission to show one of the docs. I'll send the one that you're allowed to show later. But we format it a specific way. Usually we have the enemies, right? And then at the very bottom we have the waves. And we put all of the information on there that is relevant to the game mode balancing, like the wave timer, the amount of enemies in the wave, which enemies are used, etc., etc.
And music. Music is a fun one too. If you've noticed,
I'm going to be honest. I never look at the I like never look at the music stuff because I don't like changing mode music. It's like annoying to do.
Yeah, but so someone keeps doing it, and so we get what's it called? We get Hexscape tracks in
Molten. I think that was a below request, if I recall correctly.
Oh, interesting.
I think he's the one who asked to do that. But I didn't do that. That was someone else. Yeah. Anyway, though, back on track. So with game modes in specific, it's mostly like we make a doc, we put the necessary information on it, and then I'll go through it and update the stuff in my lobby, or if it's in like another lobby, like sometimes we have other game modes in different lobbies, right? I'll usually go into that lobby and update it on the correct all the stuff that needs to be put in that lobby. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for the most part, it's a pretty simple process. It's nothing like super crazy. Usually, I like to give most of QA access to those docs so that everyone can kind of put their own feedback on it. But it's pretty much always the same, like 4 to 5 people working on game mode docs, right?
The really, really active people. They know
Yeah.
who they are, and they're actually the backbone of those game modes. A lot of that stuff I don't think would ever end up in like the fun ways they do without them.
I agree. So for towers, though, towers are a lot simpler, unless it's a new tower. Sometimes new towers are done a little more, with a little bit more nuance put into them. But with game modes in specific, for the most part, it's just like, we'll put the tower, we'll put the tower in the place that it needs to be in. And then we'll open that place up to QA, and pretty much outside of that, that's kind of just it. There's a feedback channel, obviously, for QA to give their thoughts on the balancing and like the general flow of the tower. There's usually a bug reports channel in case there's something wrong with the tower, right? But like I would like to say that tower balancing is pretty easy to do. Now there is the obvious, like, sometimes we do multiple tower balances in one update, especially like 40 of them. That's when things get complicated because I have to I have to update all of those, and it takes a lot longer than people would think. It really, like, right now we don't have a way to import proposed stats directly into the format that the codebase uses. I would like to get that implemented at some point through like a stat editor. That would be really nice, and it would speed up the process a lot for QA testing in specific. But for now, that's just kind of the way things are, right? And I don't think it's horrible that way, because for the most part, I'm pretty available to make those changes, right?
Yeah. No, you honestly are sometimes too available. You really gotta like take some of your own time, I think, sometimes.
I mean, I'm just getting my hours in, so.
Fair enough.
But yeah, for the most part, it just comes down to getting the tower in the testing environment, and then QA messes around with it. They put their feedback. I'll go through their feedback and apply the changes that everyone pretty much agrees on.
Interesting. Speaking of QA, a lot of this interview I do want to try and, I guess, shed some light on QA and a tiny bit of the process that obviously have been graciously allowed to be shared. One of those is just a general question. Is there anything about the QA program for TDS that you wish the public could know, concerning that you are, the QA lead?
I think the thing that I would like the general public to know is that, well, I guess not know, but the thing that I would like to see more often is I don't really like when people, there is like the saying, like, blame testers, and for the most part it's kind of ironic, but I don't really appreciate, or I guess like it does kind of infuriate me a little bit when people are very negative towards our testing team, because in my opinion, if you have something negative to say about the game, that's fine. I used to be very critical of this game, right? And a lot of that light before I was a tester used to be like, what are these testers doing, right? And then I actually got into the program, and my take on development in any game, whether it's QA, whether it's the actual development cycle, right, is that nobody should ever be blamed for anything. I think that pointing fingers is incredibly immature, especially within development, right? Like it's one thing for a community member to look at something and be like, oh, this is X person's fault, because a lot of people, like, I don't like to say that people are bad for doing that, because at the end of the day, people are just sharing their opinion, right? Whether or not the way they word that opinion is
the most constructive, right?
Yeah, like whether or not it's constructive is a whole different topic, but people are allowed to say what they want to say. That's fine. I think that people should be allowed to say what they want to say about the game. But I do wish that people were a little bit more lenient on the QA team in specific, because really they don't make a lot of the flagship decisions, right? It's not their call to make those kind of decisions, but they do still, to the best of their ability, try to provide adequate feedback and be a part of that design process, right? And then they might end up saying something in the public that kind of implies that they were a part of that process, and then when that implies that they were a part of that process, people look at that and be like, okay, so this is your fault, right?
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part of that is that I want our QA team to be able to talk about what they worked on in an update or what they contributed to without being pinned or like blamed for it, right? Personally, I think that if someone has an issue with the game, the best thing they can do is honestly, they should blame me because I'm the one who approves all the balance changes, right? At the end of the day, it all does come down to how I go about actually looking through the balance changes and implementing the ones that I think are good to go, right? So if you're going to blame someone for balancing, blame me. But I would like for people to kind of put themselves in the QA team's shoes more often instead of immediately jumping to conclusions, because these changes and like these balancing updates are often more nuanced than you might think, right?
It actually kind of goes into like a bit of a follow-up question with that, where basically I do wish there was more transparency kind of starting the QA program, particularly with bugs. Bugs are a big one. It's always like, I think one of the biggest things that can be said, it's balances are one thing, but it's also like this question of if you have a QA team and a lot of bugs still get through, like a lot of, for example, you have like the medic bug, you have just things like towers not working or elf camp like being half functional. And I think it comes down to less of a question of, it's like a question of how do those slip through? Yeah, is there any insight you can provide on that?
Yeah, so what I would say on stuff like that is, like I said earlier, that does come down to a fault on the development side of things, right? I still don't think that anyone in particular should be blamed for that kind of stuff, but it is like, it's hard to blame QA for stuff that they may have not been aware of or not had time to properly balance test, or for just bugs in general test, because another thing about QA is that QA is a completely voluntary program, right?
Right.
We don't really expect our QA testers to constantly be readily available to test the game, and I think that's okay, because QA as a program is a very like mixed bag, right? There's a lot of different people in QA, and they all kind of, I guess, synergize in their own different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everyone
has their own different strengths. Some people are better balanced, some people are better game
like
modes,
some people are more focused on like bugs, some people are more focused on balancing, right? Like I said, it's a mixed bag. And at the end of the day, right, like with our QA program being almost entirely voluntary, we are not always going to have like the world's greatest detectives of QA testers, and bugs are bound to slip through, especially with the game as like old as TDS. The unfortunate truth is that like sometimes certain bugs just happen, and there's not much we could have really done to avoid them happening. And that's kind of, I would like to kind of elaborate on that by saying that's kind of what the point of the upcoming code backend rewrites are for, to address those issues and actually go back and make sure that these issues don't happen, right?
Right.
But like I said, like with the QA program in specific, I think that with transparency, that's the thing you mentioned. I would like to find ways to be more transparent, but obviously at the same time, transparency is kind of a difficult thing to balance, because as much as I would like to be able to tell everyone like, okay, this is what the QA program is up to, or this is what we're doing, that also comes with the problem of like, there's only a certain amount of telling you can do in game development before you kind of enter risky territory, right?
Right.
And I think that with the QA program in specific, the reason why it's hard for us to be very like, I guess, transparent on how the program functions is because a lot of how the program functions directly kind of interacts with testing the game, right, and testing updates. But yeah, I think the thing that I would say in regards to that, man, I'm not doing a very good job at answering this question.
No, it's a weird question. It's all good.
Yeah, but I think if I had to make like a closing statement or like try to summarize my thoughts, because this is kind of one of the harder questions for me to give like a well thought out answer to.
Yeah.
I think the reason why we opened up the Trello was to kind of bridge that gap a little bit and give people an idea of what we're working on. And I know the Trello doesn't actually have anything related to bugs on it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that bugs are like never going to get fixed, right? It's just mostly a product of like when people open like a roadmap, they should expect bug fixes. They should not have to be told when bugs are being fixed, right? Because bug fixes should be something that happen regardless of what other updates come out, they should kind of be packaged in with updates, right? And that's kind of yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's a quote. I don't know if it's Arrowhead or if it's in software. It's like I think it's when systems are working well, you don't notice that they're working at all. Like so in this you can apply it to when bug fixes come, you shouldn't notice that they're bug fixes because the intended system should just be flat out working.
Yeah.
After they're fixed.
That's a really good way to put it. Like one more thing I would say is that I wish I had a better answer on that, but like I said, there's only so much I can really comment on that before I get into kind of like territory. And I don't want to put any expectations.
Spectin kills you territory.
Yeah, I don't want to put any expectations out there. And then people see this video and then they're like confused later.
Yeah. Precarious little situation I put you in. But that's about to get even worse with this next question.
Oh boy.
How do you feel about the recent balancing update? Are there any towers or game modes you're still not quite satisfied with?
Yeah, you know, I do have to be a little careful with how I word this next answer, but I would like to be as transparent as possible as well. The balancing update was very experimental for us, and I still think that even though I'm not happy with everything that came out of it, I think it was good to do it because it kind of showed us what to expect with an update like this. And it really was a productive update either way, I would like to say.
Fallen mode, for example. Fallen mode is, I think, pretty good, minus necrotic skeletons still being really just kind of evil. I think is the best word to describe them, right?
Personally, I haven't had an issue with them, so that might just be a skill issue on your part. But
ooh, all right.
But yeah, going back to what I was saying, I think like the update was controversial. I knew it was going to be controversial the second that I started working on it, especially when I got Tom involved because he's a very I like Tom. I think he's fun, and he's a very like interesting.
The next question is actually about Tom, so you can
save
your thoughts.
I'll save my thoughts on Tom. But yeah. So anyway, I knew this update was going to be controversial. I really did. I wasn't like surprised when it came out and people had negative things to say about it. Right. My hopes with this update were to give us a clean slate to work with for the game's balancing, especially going into the hardcore rework, because the hardcore rework, I'm not going to lie, is something I'm really scared of doing. Not because I don't have faith in myself to be able to put out a good product with it and make sure it's well balanced, but just because like hardcore is a very popular game mode, more popular than most people think, I would like to say. And it's a very iconic game mode. Like outside of Fallen, it might be the most iconic game mode in the game, right? And I think
it's like 5 years old now.
Yeah, and I think people have very high expectations for hardcore, and I wanted to be very careful before we started working on it with where the game's balance was at. So my idea for the balancing update originally was actually not even close to as big as the one that we ended up getting. Originally, it was just like a few tower nerfs to the stronger ones, like Warlock, I think Hacker was in there, Golden Scout, and then a few buffs to like Forgotten Towers, like Demo Man, Paintballer, right? But then something really peculiar happened. I'll be fully honest here, and that peculiar thing was Frost Mode. When Frost Mode was kind of a surprise for me. I was not really expecting to be working on a new survival mode in 2025. It kind of was just something that appeared one day, and I was like, okay, I'll do with this what I can in the time frame I have. But once Frost Mode came out, during Frost Mode testing, I was pretty happy with the mode. I thought the game mode is as difficult as it needs to be, and people will find it adequately hard to scratch that itch for a hard TDS game mode, right? And then it actually came out, and everyone and their mother said it was too easy. And at that point, I kind of realized that maybe we need to take a step back and reevaluate where the game's balance is at. And my goal there wasn't to gut good OP towers and make bad towers good, right? Really, I just wanted to kind of reevaluate which towers could be improved upon, right? Mainly the goal of that update was to make TDS kind of fun again, and make towers stand out more. And that's kind of what the aim with changes like Minigunner and Accelerator was, right? Like I know those two. Well, Minigunner hasn't really been too controversial, but Accelerator was pretty controversial at start. Accelerator, Frost Blaster was pretty controversial. Electroshocker was pretty controversial. So there definitely were some changes that could be improved upon, and I definitely agree. Like this update was not perfect, and it probably needed more work. But I did want to get something out to start getting feedback, right? And I will confirm that there are like buffs. By the time this video is out, they might already be out, right? We'll see, depending on where they're at.
This next one. Do you plan to address these in a future balance patch?
Yeah. So if this video comes out after Wednesday, which I'm assuming it might, but if not, then here's a little teaser. There are like changes that are coming based on community feedback and reception to this update, right? Like we're not just kind of putting this out and sitting on our butts and being like, all right, this is the game, enjoy it the way it is, right? Like we have read, like I made some posts and gameplay feedback, the Discord channel, to kind of, and like if you look at those, a lot of the ones that I put in there, maybe not down to the T, but like a lot of the concepts that I put in there are kind of like an idea of what I want to do with those towers, or what may or may not happen to them in an upcoming update, whether or not that's soon
like
or not. Right?
Ideas, but not concrete. So
yeah,
don't be surprised if that's not what.
Yeah, I did put that in the channel too. Some of the ideas that I put in there just didn't really work the way that I wanted to when we ended up testing them, so they may or may not happen that way. But most of the towers that I put in there are still like slated for changes, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, and I would like to address the towers that people are not very fond of. Mostly Electroshocker is the big one. That's the one that I've seen. Surprisingly, that's the most controversial one that I've seen, Electro, which is really interesting to me because I was not really expecting a lot of people to care about Electroshocker, I guess. I don't really recall it being a super popular tower, but it is interesting to see like people come out and voice their opinion on it regardless. So I have spent some time with Electroshocker trying to improve it.
Now, on a similar topic of balancing, one particular individual,
oh boy,
the man, the myth, the legend, TomDaNinja. So, I want to ask the question. What do you think of the legendary TomDaNinja's balancing in particular, and do you believe his inclusion into the QA team again will affect future balancing? And how has it, I guess, already affected balancing?
Oh, this one's fun. So, right, Tom... there's like an image that I could use to describe my like balancing relationship, for lack of better terminology, with Tom. The first image is like Tom when he was a QA lead and I was like a little baby QA tester, right? When I first started like doing balance changes, I heavily based the way that I did my changes off of how Tom did his thought process, right? And I kind of got a lot of my ideas from Tom. And Tom, you know, I've noticed that, I'll say this without poking at him, right? But I've noticed that Tom is he speaks his mind. He's very much like no bullshit, right? Especially when it comes to like community interaction. Maybe that's not. Yeah,
he's
maybe that's not the greatest thing in the world, but you know, I can't tell him what to and not to do, right? I mean, he's his own individual. We'll see where that goes, but. But yeah, so like, and then the second image is like me with Tom now. Like the funny thing about this update is initially I wasn't planning on really messaging Tom because Tom was kind of at that point done with TDS, right? Like he not like necessarily like in a negative way or like he had any bad reservations with the game, but I think he just kind of was in college. He is in college and he's just kind of like done contributing to the game, right? He did what he needed to do, and he was like, all right, I've contributed to this game in the way I needed to. I've received the compensation that I wanted for it, because he was compensated a few times, if I recall correctly. And I think at that point he was done with the game. So at first I wasn't like planning on messaging him to help with this update, but then very interestingly, he did actually reply to me when I kind of shot him. At first it was like a joke DM. I was like, yo, Tom, we're doing an update. You wanna join us and help balance TDS? And at first I was expecting like a no, right? Like a resounding like hell no.
Right.
But I was pleasantly surprised when he messaged me back and said sure. And at that point I was like, well, I'm pretty curious where this will go. And I actually was kind of excited because the thing about Tom, and I think the thing that a lot of people notice in this update, is that when he balances a tower, I don't think he really cares about specifics, right? Like he just kind of does what he finds interesting with it and what properly shakes the tower up. And there's a lot
Like
of
he was talking about giving like was it like gold soldier like stun immunity.
Yeah, like
It's like an
Tom
idea.
just kind of does whatever he wants. And I would be glazing, or I guess like I would it would be wrong for me to say that I like every idea he comes up with, but I admire his creativity, I will say that. Because one thing that I've always worried about when it comes to game balancing myself is that I kind of try to avoid making everything feel samey when I can, but there's only so much I can do on my end. But what Tom's strength is, I would say, is that he can look at something that really is not designed in a way that allows you to make something creative out of it, and he actually finds a way to make it creative, right? Like Accelerator, I think. He tries to push boundaries, and I think as a QA tester, that is important, regardless of what the end product is, right? Because I do think that some of his changes were, like I wasn't a huge fan of Electroshocker. And I know a lot of the community doesn't like it, and I have been working kind of myself on it recently to make it feel a little bit better. But I liked the idea he had with it. I really did. I just think that the some of the decisions on it could have been improved upon, right? But yeah, I think Tom is, he says things in public chats, but I think behind the scenes he is very well reserved. He's well spoken. When he has an idea, he's not afraid to push for that idea, right? And that's something that is very good to have in a QA tester. And I think as a balancer, like it's really funny because when I was reinviting Tom to the QA program, the first rebalance he did, I don't remember what tower it was. I think it might have been Accelerator. I instantly looked at it and I was like, this is something Tom would have made in 2023. And then I thought about it and I was like, oh wait, that makes complete sense, because it really, like, Tom's balancing style is very specific. It really is. Like, you can tell if you actually take a step back and look at towers, you can pretty easily determine which ones were balanced by Tom if you kind of have an idea of how he does balance changes, right? And I think that's really interesting, the way that he does that. I think that his inclusion in the program is important. I think that he is a good tester.
Oh, here, actually, I'll give you a good quote here. You want this one? This one's really good.
Okay.
Quote: "A Chud speaks on Chud culture on Chud land while praying to a Chud working for a Chud, listening to Chuds who play instruments made by Chuds for Chuds while using a time system designed by ancient Chuds and a civilization of Chuds, part of a species of Chuds living on a Chud planet in a Chuddy universe."
This is something Tom would DM me at 4 in the morning.
Is community sentiment a factor in balancing? And does the fact a tower is like new or costs Robux cause balancing to lean more towards it being stronger than it should?
Ooh, okay. This is a hard question to answer for a few reasons. Yes and no. There's two sides of the coin on this one. There's evergreen towers, right? And there's event towers. So event towers are literally impossible for us to balance. Like they just kind of are. And there's a few reasons why that is, but the biggest reason is that when it comes to balancing an event tower, you have to be really careful to make it not required or too strong for anything, right? But you also want it to feel powerful.
Right.
You want it to feel strong. You want it to feel like a deserving reward for a difficult game mode, because I think a lot of people might agree that a lot of our recent events have kind of aimed towards being a lot more difficult in the harder modes, right?
Yeah. 2.5 million HP.
Yeah, like, and that is by design. That's mostly to we do try to provide like preset loadouts, but that's mostly to make these modes like they're designed for higher level players. We'll probably see about improving that in the future so that more people can have like access to these towers, right? But for now, like a lot of our events are designed around higher level play, right? But yeah, like event towers in general are just really difficult to balance because you want them to feel strong, but you don't want them to feel so strong to the point that they actually hold a grip on the meta. Like Unfortunately, the greatest example of this is the Swarmer rework. That tower was
Yeah, I was gonna ask about
that
that.
tower was an unfortunate happening. I will say that much. The thing about the Swarmer rework is that it was very rushed, but it was also just not really something that I kind of had my head in, right? Like I was really trying to come up with a way to make it interesting, and it was just hard for me to actually figure out what I wanted to do with it because there was a lot of bugs with it during testing. And those bugs were unfortunately not addressed fast enough for me to kind of have an idea of how the tower actually played. Because Swarmer is more complex than meets the eye. It's the way that it actually works is something that most people don't understand, right? Like, oh, like here's a tower that stacks bees, but if you sell the tower, those bees are still stacked, but they don't do any damage, right? Like, I felt like I was learning about that tower as I was testing it. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and I guess like if I had to make a comment on Swarmer, it was just incredibly rushed, and it was really hard for me to find out how to properly balance it because of how picky if its functionality is, right? Is it in the spot where I want it to be? Probably not. I think it's a little too niche for what it's supposed to do. Whether or not I'm going to buff it is just kind of a if I have time kind of thing, right? I would like to buff it because, like I said, I don't intentionally ever want event towers to be like bad by design, right? That's really like that doesn't really benefit anyone to have what like how many event towers are there? Like 20 something almost like that many trophy
Yeah,
towers. Like
it's a lot of
having
event
that many towers and they're all like trophy towers, quote unquote. It's just like it's not ideal. And it's never like by design that it is that way. I don't think my grenade did any damage. Oh, it did. Never mind. It's just the health bar bug. But yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, event towers are never like designed to be bad. It's just like sometimes actually getting them in the state where we want them is easier said than done.
This kind of leads into, I guess, Swarmer in general, and it is more of a question about towers and their design. Essentially, are there any towers in this game that you feel simply like by concept are like very strong and in hindsight perhaps should have been adjusted to like a different gimmick or like a different like idea to prevent them from kind of dominating?
I know why you're asking me this question because you know what I'm gonna say. Okay, I have a few towers actually. There's a few that I think are too strong by design, but there's also a few that I think need adjustments by design. The first and most obvious one that I know you're asking me this question about in the first place is Hacker. I think Hacker is an incredibly bloated tower. I really don't like how Hacker is designed. If I could go back and change it, there's a lot I would do with it. For the most part, I think that Hacker conceptually is interesting enough, right? But what I would do is I would simplify it a lot. I think I would probably, like if I had designed Hacker when it first came out, I think I would have probably not included slowness. I think that slowness is something that like kind of just exists because it can on Hacker.
Yeah.
I do think wire fraud is integral to its design. I would keep wire fraud. I would probably either rework, like soft rework, or completely remove cloning. I don't really like how cloning is implemented onto Hacker. I would probably replace it with something a little bit more intuitive, I guess. Like, for me, the problem with cloning is that it's really not well thought out. And I think that shows because, like, we can't nerf cloning because, as a concept, cloning is not particularly strong, right? But then you look at how it actually plays with certain synergies, like, you know, Gat Hack, right? I'm not going to beat around the bush. Like, Gatling Hacker is really strong. There's just, like, I think the way that cloning was implemented needed more time. I will say my favorite thing about Hacker is actually the enemy conversions. I think the way it was implemented needs more work. Like, I don't like how it completely skips over like death effects. Like like I don't like how you can basically skip over like boomers from exploding, right, by using Hacker. But I do think it is cool that it converts enemies. That's a feature that I would definitely have kept in if I had like had any reservations on the design, right? Hacker, I feel, is too bloated, though. I don't completely hate the tower. I just think that I would have probably changed it if I had more say on it. But as for other towers that I would have changed, probably Gatling Gun, actually. I really do like Gatling Gun. I think it's a fun tower, and I think that, like, it is a proper example of like an end game trophy tower. Not that it's intended to be bad or anything, right? And I think Gatling is actually a pretty good tower right now. Maybe a little underpowered for where you kind of are meant to unlock it at, but you know, I do think that its place in the meta is there, right?
Its place in the meta is called the hacker, and then some weird use cases.
Yeah. But what I would personally have done with Gatling is honestly, I saw a suggestion a while ago. I don't remember who sent it, so if they're watching this video, feel free to take credit for it in the comment section. But I saw a really cool suggestion a while ago that was like,
Comment bait, thank you.
I saw a really cool suggestion a while ago that was like, what's it called? It split hacker into two, or sorry, Gatling into two paths. It had one that fired like an explosive round really slowly. You could still aim it though, right?
I think I actually remember that. Yeah, that was in the old suggestions before it got like
nuked. Yeah.
Right?
And then there was the current one right now, and I thought that idea was actually really cool. I would have liked to do something like that with Gatling, because Gatling to me is another tower that I wouldn't say it feels incomplete, but it definitely feels like it could be so much more for how hard it is to unlock, right?
I guess it's kind of like a design thing, because Gatling, like we've all seen what a Gatling meta looks like, and I think when we stared into that void, we kind of realized that that's not a very fun meta, because the Gatling meta to me is kind of, it feels just very weird, because Gatling isn't a tower that plays well with the design of a tower defense game, in my opinion. Like if you like to use anything with Gatling, you have to like go into the tower. Like you have to aim it, you have to fire it, which stops you from upgrading, from placing, from doing all the other stuff that a tower defense game demands you of. Which is like,
you have to. It's very hands on. I agree. And that's something that I actually wanted to touch on. I don't know if you have another question down the line, so that might address this. So let me know if I'm talking too much. But when it comes to tower defense design, one of the things that is really important to understand that a lot of people don't think about, but you kind of notice when you start to design a game like this, is that there's two kinds of skills in a tower defense game. There is mechanical skill and there's strategic skill. When you are designing a tower defense game, you really want to try to not hinge on mechanical skill. You don't want your game to be micro simulator, right?
Right.
Because as good as micro is for harder game modes, it does demand the player to understand placements, right? It should not be something that is so baked into the gameplay experience that it's basically required of the player. Like that's why Gatling, I think, in its current state is a little hard to balance, because the tower is literally designed to be microed almost all the time for it to reach its full potential. And if you make it strong on its own, then what's the point of the FPS mechanic at all, right?
There's also like another thing of the FPS mechanic not really being explained to players. I think during the original Gatling, I know a lot of players had the sentiment that it was like either like fine in terms of balance, or it was like even for some players underpowered. And I think that came from a misunderstanding of what the tower did. Because on like tower information, if you actually use the tower, if you're not paying attention, you don't see FPS mode as like doing 2.4 times more damage with the pierce. You just see it as like, oh, I can take control, and there's nothing beyond that. When in reality, a lot of the Gatling's power was due to that FPS mode and its piercing mechanic, which just isn't well explained.
I think I'll probably go back into Gatling maybe later and try to update the tower info to make sure that it's properly explained to the player. But yeah, like I said, Gatling is a tower that I feel like, I don't hate the design of it, but I do think that at its core, it's a very difficult tower to work with. It's not something that I enjoy balancing. I will be very honest. I don't enjoy balancing Gatling gun, and I don't think I ever will.
I think that's a sentiment a lot of QA shares as well. No one wants to go near that tower.
I would like to do something with it in the future. Believe me, it's not like I want to leave it in the state it's in forever, but to me, Gatling gun is very much akin to how Necromancer was when it first came out. It was in need of a rework the second it was released, if that makes sense.
Oh.
That's the statement that I make on Gatling gun. It is one of the towers that I don't really like the current design of.
Speaking of towers and like fun, fun and design, this is just a bit of a breather question. It's been a lot of very big questions. big ones about balance and in QA, state of the game and all that. So something simple. What's your favorite TDS tower and why?
So this has actually changed quite a bit. When I first started playing TDS, I think the tower that I enjoyed the most to play with was Enforcer. That's like a callback right there.
Oh,
I really
almost forgot
liked
the
Enforcer.
name. Jesus.
Yeah, I really liked Enforcer. I thought that even though it was pretty strong, and I would probably say, like, in the context of the game back then, it was probably too strong. I think that compared to other TDS towers back then, the idea, like, I think one of my favorite things ever about old TDS, especially with like Hidden Wave, was it was always so funny seeing how people had to like plan out van times to get time saves. Like, I don't know why that was just so funny to me, but I really did think that was like cool, right?
Yeah.
Like Enforcer was just fun. So back then it was Enforcer, and then Enforcer got absolutely destroyed in the overhaul update.
Oh yeah.
And he lost the one thing that I really enjoyed about him. So at that point, I don't think I really had any favorite towers for a while. I was kind of indifferent about most of them. And then something happened, and that something was called the Frost Blaster rework. I really liked Frost Blaster when it first got reworked. Any of my friends who may or may not see this video, I love that fucking tower, dude. Sorry for the language. I don't know if you.
No, it doesn't matter.
Censor that.
I'm sorry. Frost Blaster. That's like.
No, I really liked the Frost Blaster rework. I was a huge fan of Frost Blaster. If any of my friends are watching this video and they comment, and they were like talking to me around that time, they'll probably tell you, like, I just used that tower even if it was not optimal for me to bring it. I was just playing with it because I enjoyed it. Frankly, I thought it was fun. But over time, I kind of stopped caring about it because I realized that I didn't really actually probably like it as much as I thought I did. The next tower that really stood out to me, there was actually a tie between two for a while through almost 2024. And those two were, so in 2024, there was one tower which, when it first came out, I was very disappointed with how it was. So I told myself I can fix him, right? Which is a really funny statement about a TDS tower, but I told myself I can fix him. I want you to actually guess, what tower do you think I'm talking about?
Ooh,
I'll give you a hint. It came out in 2024 and it's not Brawler.
Oh my god, was it? I'm gonna say Crook Boss, and I'm gonna sound like an idiot.
No, it was Trapper.
Oh right, you're like Father Trapper. I forget.
Yeah. So Trapper was the first tower that I ever like rebalanced. I actually got a lot of help from 2MLG on the Trapper rebalance, but that was the first tower that I ever like worked on a lot, right? And Trapper is a tower that I think is really, really fun. I think it's kind of a little left behind right now. I'm probably going to revisit it pretty soon.
Yeah.
But I think that it is one of the towers that, like, when well balanced, creates the most interesting like strategy with it, right? Just because of how it works.
Yeah.
I think that Trapper is a very
It's like Spike
cool
Factory
tower.
if it didn't just pile up. It's like Spike Factory when you're not using permaspike. You know?
Yeah, it's
You actually do
like
fun
that's
stuff
kind of
with it.
I actually heavily based the mines off of super mines from BTD6.
Oh.
That's where I got the idea for like the fast firing mines from, right?
Interesting. Actually didn't know that. Huh. BTD6 is truly just a game you can always just
BTD6 is a game that I have so much respect for. It's just a very well designed game. I think that Ninja Kiwi is a very like they're a great studio, really. BTD6 is a really good game.
Yeah, and then they hit you with the plus 1,500% boss event and say good luck.
Don't you ever talk ill of Ninja Kiwi.
All right. If you say so. I mean, personally, I have some disagreements with some of their changes. They just killed druid farming, by the way. Like, they fucking murdered it.
It'll
gone.
be okay. Little OmegaBlade.
It's gone.
It'll
Druid
be
farming
okay.
is gone. All right. This is more of a game design question now. Back to the hard stuff. You know, no more kiddie pool time.
No more
is
easy
over.
questions,
Yeah.
man.
Kiddie pool
I
time
was
is
having
over.
fun with those.
Back
Dang.
to the 10-minute long answers. Are there any aspects, like, due to your position as, again, you said, associate game designer, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah.
Yeah. Due to your position, is that are there any aspects of TDS or even Alter Ego that you believe would benefit from a shift in design or a rework, like towers, mechanics, progression, really just anything?
Yeah. So if I could make my own TDS update, like if I had that much say, I could like be like, if I could like mind control the entire team and be like, ooh, this is the next update. What I would actually do is I would probably go back and sit down and just kind of address a lot of like the built up design problems the game has had, right? Because there are some things that I think need a lot of work. PvP is the biggest one by far.
Oh yeah.
PvP is a game mode that I think does have potential. I know it's a very like Doom posty mode. A lot of people don't see the vision with it. I honestly don't. I understand where they're coming from, right? PvP is a very like daunting task of a game mode. It really is. But I do think that PvP is something that could work. It just needs to kind of be relooked at and probably entirely overhauled, because I think the current way it works is just not intuitive, nor is it like easy for like the thing that a lot of people don't understand about TDS is that the reason why the game is kind of simple is because like it is a Roblox game at the end of the day, right? And that doesn't mean that
Casual audience.
it
Right?
has a very casual audience, right? Like that's a good way to put it. It's not, we can't cater everything we do to like hardcore players. And I know that PvP is designed to be a competitive mode, right? But like we still have to make it like somewhat accessible, right? You want like a low, what's a good way to put this? You want like a low low skill floor, a high skill ceiling. That's like what I was trying to say. That's what I wanted for PvP, and it didn't quite come out the way that I would have like. If I could change PvP, I would probably rework a lot about it. But the first thing that I would do is I would completely remove the ranks. I think that the way that the game does ranks is very confusing. It's also very hard for us to balance 3 game modes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Warden is the perfect example of that. Warden as a tower in mid and low ranks is decently strong because it's able to one-shot a lot of the early stuff. Versus in a game with like Fallen, which has along with that more stun immune enemies, it performs like
Yeah, and
way
that's just
way worse, right? If you had one centralized bouncing, like the one centralized mode, it'd be a lot easier because then you could just bounce the tower around the mode it's designed for.
yeah. That's kind of my biggest thing with PvP. I think that, see, I like the idea of having PvP require you to understand the game better as you progress through the ranks, right? Like, I think the idea is cool. I think in execution, a better way to do that is to, like, maybe if you want ranks to stand out from one another, a better way to do that, rather than changing the wave structure and requiring the player to basically relearn the entire game mode, right, is to change up maybe sends in those modes. There's a lot of things I would do with sending. I think the way it works right now is kind of to almost like not TDS-y, right? Like it feel like it's very akin to how Bloons Battles 2 does their send system, right? And I think that it works in that game because Bloons Battles 2 is such a different, like drastically differently designed game. And it doesn't suck in TDS. Like I see how you could make it work, but I also think that it could probably be relooked at and changed up quite a bit. And another thing I would go back and redo if I could is modifiers.
Oh.
I don't like how modifiers came out, if I'm being fully honest. I think that modifiers are something that need to be updated pretty often if you want them to hold any meaningful purpose in the wider like size of the game, right? I have a lot of ideas for like interesting modifiers. Like I would really like to do like the curse system as a modifier. I think that would be cool, but the problem is that we just don't ever really have the time to go back and add that stuff in. Another thing that I would go back and redo is the skill tree. Very contrary to a lot of claims that I have made, I don't actually hate the skill tree. I hate how it's kind of designed right now, but I don't hate the idea of a skill tree in TDS. I really would have liked if the skill tree stayed more, like I guess if I had to say my problem with the skill tree, it's that it feels too kind of like simple, but like not simple at the same time. Like when you open the skill tree, you're paying like what, like 50,000 coins to max out your eco stat, right? Like I liked the older version of the skill tree that I think Below posted about a really long time ago, the one where it was like 3 stages of one specific upgrade, right? And I think that would have made the system a lot easier to balance around. And it also would have allowed us to do more interesting skills, right? Because that way it's like, okay, so like let's say we had a skill that was like, it was called like improved defense or something, right? And it gave you like +5 tower placements at level 1, and then at level 2 it gave you like, I don't know, something, and then like at level 3 you could place a free scout at the start of the game, you know, like the free dart monkey type thing.
Yeah, so like stuff that doesn't directly buff you, but like kind of enhances your abilities. Versus like just flat out more range, lower cooldowns. And
Yeah,
stuff like
I would have liked for the skill tree to be more specialized rather than just like direct buffs, because I think the problem with direct buffs is that when you actually take those buffs and you try to apply them to meaningful balance to game modes, it's really, really hard. It's almost impossible to make assumptions about where everyone's at on the skill tree, right? It's hard to balance around a median skill tree.
Because some players will just flat out max a skill tree versus like obviously the optimal way is theoretically to go about getting every single skill minimum level and then kind of just go from there. Where that's not really the case for players. Like it's impossible to predict what a player will have as a skill. Therefore, like balancing wise, it kind of is impossible to account for it in any meaningful way. Yeah. This one was kind of a question that you've kind of half answered, but I'd like a little elaboration on. How do you generally feel about like hacker cloning? Like as a concept, like do you think as part of its inclusion in a meta, do you think there's any way to kind of solve the issues surrounding its power with particular towers like Gatling, Merc, or a lot of like towers that have lower limits?
So I've talked about what I would do with hacker cloning a few times. I have an idea for it, but I'm kind of torn on how it would actually play. So what I would do with hacker cloning is, if I could, I would make it so when you clone a tower, you cannot clone that specific tower again until its clone dies, right? So let's say you have 8 accelerators. Or let's say you have 2 accelerators. This is a better example. You have 2 accelerators and you clone accelerator number 1, right? You can still clone accelerator number 2, but you cannot clone accelerator number 1 until accelerator number 1's clone has gone away. Does that make sense? Hopefully the people watching the video will understand that analogy.
Yeah, so basically the idea would be if you had like just 1 Gatling down, instead of being able to get 4 more, you'd only be able to get like 2
Gatlings at once, and that would stack with hackers. Okay, so technically you could still get like, I guess 3 Gatlings total, but actually no, because you can only clone that individual tower. It's a stat that's tied to the tower itself rather than like the hacker, right? So yeah, if you have 1 Gatling down, you would only be able to clone that Gatling once until its clone dies. So I want to make it clear that like that's just an idea that I was throwing out. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna do that, but it is like an idea that I would like to probably test or toy around with when we get the time. Generally, another thing I would like to do with cloning is I want it to be cheaper. Like I think depending on when this video goes out, there are hacker changes in the works. So depending on when this video goes out, you guys like may or may not see what's happening with it, but there are like ideas for hacker on how to kind of make cloning more intuitive, because I think the problem with cloning is that when hacker was initially balanced and QA tested, it was kind of rushed, and we didn't really do anything interesting with cloning. And I think we're just now kind of getting around to actually like looking at hacker's design and kind of redoing some aspects of it that I would say were not fully complete, I guess. But I really don't have like any huge reservations about hacker aside from that. I think like I made most of my points about the tower clear earlier.
Interesting. Very interesting. This is a bit of a bridge question just before we get into a lot of alter ego related stuff. So I know alter ego is a big topic. So I just want to,
It's also the game that I primarily work on, technically.
That too. That's also probably where a lot of these will probably have hopefully a bit more insight, but we'll see. This one is a fun question. What compelled you, the legendary NimTheOne, Nimothy developer ninja, to buy not 1, but 2 Kreekcraft cameos calling out first solo hidden wave victor OmegaBlade 84 on cameo.com.
Oh. Because it was funny.
Wow, you really give me so much to work with here.
Oh, okay. Well, you want,
I'm
an
joking,
elaborate answer. Oh, you want an elaborate answer? Okay.
No,
So,
no.
I can actually tell you why I bought those videos if you want.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
So the reason that I got those videos is because OmegaBlade 84 is a humongous chud, and he needs to be humbled with his big crown, first hidden wave victor, solo hidden wave. Sorry, before you correct me. The first solo hidden wave victor in Tower Defense Simulator. I just thought he needed a little humbling, you know. I saw a man with great pride and ego. Some of the most highly punishable sins, and I thought to myself, this man needs to be humbled.
Wow, that's awesome. This is another question. Do you think Kreekcraft fears the day another cameo from NimTheOne, the man who misled him during the Hunt's Mega Pet Simulator Mega Token, if you remember that? Do you think he fears the day whenever that man appears in his inbox and says, make another cameo?
Do you actually have that clip? You should put that in the video. I think I might have it somewhere.
I could probably go dig it up.
Now you are my least favorite developer. Okay.
I found the token, but I forgot how to do it. Tengu emoji, Oni emoji, Tengu emoji, Oni emoji, love you Kreek, white flag emoji, white flag emoji. I remembered how to do it. Make a raid level 6, then go into the gold room and find all 6 letters. That's your hint. Shushing face emoji, white flag emoji,
I feel like you're
rainbow
trolling.
emoji, white flag emoji,
I feel like you're
hashtag
trolling.
gatekeepers.
I feel like you're trolling.
Yeah, I forgot. I almost forgot about that when I donated to Kreekcraft to gaslight him during the mega hunt. I can go find it, but that would be funny to include in the video.
You got the dev launcher for that, no? I swear you
Yeah,
did.
I had the dev launcher in the mega hunt.
Kind of a premonition, no, to what came after. If you think about it.
You want to know how I got the dev launcher in that event? I
Sure.
asked below. I said, can you ask them to give me the dev launcher? And he was like, sure.
Wow, truly.
I didn't expect that to work. That's also how I got the dev crown. I just asked.
Oh, it's amazing the things that can happen if you just ask people nicely. Perhaps there's a lesson we can all learn from this, right?
Yeah, bully the devs. They deserve it.
I don't think that's the correct lesson, but we'll move on with that horrifying notion. Do you think these cameos are a good way to get Kreekcraft to play more TDS? Because he has played a couple times on occasion for the events, which I think is quite surprising.
Oh yeah, I've kept a close eye on how Kreekcraft plays TDS. He's a very interesting person to watch play TDS with his line of minigunners.
There's a speech bubble
that was definitely a moment. I think there might be no shade to Kreekcraft. We all start somewhere, but I have a lot of respect for Kreekcraft. I think he's a funny guy. He's also very informative when he wants to be. Oh. And I highly respect his line of minigunners.
Sounds like a bit of a little sneak diss, but we will let that slide.
No, I'm being honest. Like Kreekcraft, okay, I'll put the jokes aside. Kreekcraft is low key, he's like a cool dude.
I mean, yeah, you'd hope like the literal face of a lot of Roblox's online YouTube presence would be a chill dude, Yeah.
Yeah, like a Sigma.
Kreekcraft is a Sigma. You heard it here first, folks. Anyway, one final little note about this. Do you plan to buy any more of these godforsaken cameos?
You should include both of them at the end of the video, or your viewers are going to be very confused.
I might.
OmegaBlade 84. Nim just wanted you to know that you're a huge bum at TDS PvP. Without your OP Pyro and Merc Base towers, you are nothing but a sore bum loser. Get a job. And while we're at it, free 2 MLG.
Maybe. It depends. I do. They're kind of those things that I only buy them because they're cheap, and they're kind of those things I only buy if I have throwaway money. But I'll think about it. Maybe for the bit.
Okay. Great. I can't wait for you should make Kreekcraft do his take on like an update. You just have him read out like some random take.
Should I just ask him what's your opinion on the TDS update?
No, he's not gonna. He's just gonna like ignore that, right? You have to like make him say an opinion, but you should make it like a funny one, you know? Like if he's talking about like a certain update, you should like make him really go into some weird direction with it. Be like,
I see what you're saying. I'll look into it. I'll see what I can cook up just for you, OmegaBlade 84, the first victor of solo hidden wave.
Anyway, Alter Ego. Alter Ego's the newest Paradoxum game. You know, hopefully one of many to come. One might hope, if the studio survives. That is.
That's a very great comment for you to make. I'm glad you made that comment about my job.
I imagine this game will survive. I've got questions about TDS's future, so don't worry.
All right. I'm listening. I'm listening.
How do you feel about its current state? You know, chase mode just released, and roadmap has been expanded a lot. There's a lot of stuff on there now. Q1, for example, I think has like 20 entries or something. It's a lot of stuff. So, how do you feel about its current state?
I think Alter Ego is a game that has yet to show its true colors, I might say. I like to be optimistic about Ego because so what's funny about Alter Ego is that it was very much a surprise to kind of everyone in the studio, right? It kind of just showed up one day, and at first I was a little skeptical about it, kind of to the same degree that a lot of people are right now, but as development on it has progressed and as I've seen the game evolve, I would genuinely like to say that I think Alter Ego is a game that has yet to flourish and actually show what it has to offer. I'm very much pretty optimistic about where the game is heading. I think chase mode was a good start because one of the things that I was very not happy with when it first came out was the gameplay loop. I saw a lot of people make videos kind of talking about Alter Ego, and there was a lot of early feedback on it that was, I don't like to say negative, right? Because I don't think all feedback is meant to be negative. I do think that good things come out of negative feedback when there is. Yeah, like the game was not in the state that it would have best been in when it first came out, right? And it very much showed.
Its premise, basically think just Dead by Daylight, right? Like, let's not sugarcoat it. Alter Ego is just Dead by Daylight.
It was Dead by Daylight, essentially, but without everything that made DBD addictive, or like, for, if I had to say something else, like replayable.
Yeah.
And I think that chase mode is a good start. I think that chase mode is... my take on Alter Ego is that the game is still very much incomplete, and I think that looking at it right now and assuming that the game is always going to be that way is an incorrect way to look at it. Because chase mode, even though chase mode is like the newest edition, that doesn't necessarily mean that the game mode is done, right? Like, we could always go back and expand on the framework that we now have, right?
One would hope.
Yeah, I would really like to go back and do like more interesting things with Alter Ego. I definitely have my own ideas with the game, and I've done a lot more design work on it recently. Kind of just trying to iron it out and make it feel good. And I think the game has actually improved quite a bit, especially with the chase mode update. The game went from like basically unplayable in terms of bugs to actually pretty good.
I've actually found myself playing it a couple times with friends. Like, it's not even like it's honestly a game I would recommend just giving a second chance and like seeing, because the gameplay loop isn't. It's actually pretty fun. And
here's what I would say.
I've noticed a lot of the smart design.
Here's what I would say about Ego right now. I think that if you're going to play the game right now, you have to look at it like an incomplete product, because that's what it is. Alter Ego is not done. It is not close to done.
Yeah.
The game still needs so much work, and I know that it feels like we're not making progress very fast with it, right? But I think that's large in part because having to go back and relook at the game's core loop so early in development really threw a wrench in our plans, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it was beneficial long term, but in the short term, it looks like the game is kind of already doomed. But I don't like doom posting. I think that doom posting about games that haven't had time to show what they're capable of is the wrong way to look at it, in my opinion. I think that Alter Ego is a game that can be good, but only time will tell on something like that.
Do you have any fears relating to Alter Ego's future? Like, again, because unfinished game, but is there anything you think that would possibly impede any success that may come from this game?
I don't know about that. I think that the game has a good framework, and I think that the things that we are looking to do with it, I wouldn't say I have fears. There is one thing that I am a little worried about, and that is objective mode. Objective mode is something that is not easy to do, actually. Like, in theory, it's like, oh, you just add more objectives, and you make objectives the main task, right? See, that comes with more complexities than you might think, though, because the thing is that now we have to design killers around objective and chase mode, right? Like, the thing about a game like DBD is that the killers in DBD have certain passives and actives that are directly intertwined with the gameplay of DBD. Like, I don't know if I have any immediate examples, but, like, the killers work in DBD because they're designed to work in DBD, and, like, for, like, a chase game, like, I guess, like, Forsaken or, you know, Die of Death, any like, Roblox ASIM game that is primarily chase-focused, the way that those games are built is to play off of that chase aspect, right? And Alter Ego is kind of in its chase phase right now, and I think the gameplay is incredibly better in chase mode than it ever would have in objective mode. But I do know that we have an objective mode planned. I guess my concern is just actually making it work with the context of, you know, all of the stuff that's being designed around chase mode, because, like I said, we have to now consider both modes, one of them not even being out yet, right, into character design. And the unfortunate reality of that is that it sometimes might create a situation where we have to water down a design or change, like, a really cool idea to fit a design that is compatible with both modes. And that doesn't just go to characters, you know, that goes to maps, like map design, right? Everything that touches game design is affected by that decision. That would be my main worry with Alter Ego, how splitting the gameplay loop into two modes will actually affect the game long term.
Very interesting. Actually, I never really thought, because no, you're right. Like, they're completely separate modes. How do you blend those? It's like PvP and survival in TDS, right? By design, they're completely different, but they use the same characters, right?
Yeah, and that was a thing that actually PvP was a really good lesson to be learned about that, because the thing about having a game mode that is so drastically different from the base game is that people who play the base game for the experience of the base game will interact with that mode, and something that you really want to try to avoid in game design is forcing your player base to relearn the entire game for one specific mode, right? And that's something that I feel like we're going to have to also look into avoiding with objective mode whenever we get around to starting on that, because I really don't want to have to do, like, custom stats for killers or survivors in objective mode or anything of that, because at that point it just comes down to the question of, like, how will people actually get into this mode and understand it, right, if they basically have to relearn every character that they've spent so long mastering. And it's very much like, I will say this too, learning a TDS tower, depending on how good you are at the game, is either really easy or really hard, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of intricacies and, like, kind of, like, specifics that you have to learn. Like, you learn something new every time you play a round of TDS, whether you realize it or not, right? And that's just the thing. That translates to ASIM games, like asymmetrical horror games as well, because when you play, like, a survivor in an ASIM game, like, the first time you play that survivor, you're going to figure out kind of the basic functions of it, but by the time you've played 100 times, you probably understand some of the craziest, weirdest techs that the average player would look at you and be like, what the hell are you doing, right? And that's just, like, taking that experience and understanding of a character away from someone for one game mode that they might otherwise be interested in is just, like, it's really not a smart idea. It's something you would like to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. That's yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting how that plays out, but I have faith in, you know, the QA team and design and you designers like abilities to hopefully alleviate that when the time comes.
It's something that I'm worried about, but I don't think it's impossible. It's just something that I would need to sit down and actually think about for a bit.
Perhaps it's like a good wake-up call then.
Oh no, this has been something that I have been thinking about for since we decided that we're doing a chase mode and we're not cutting objective mode entirely. It's been something that I've been thinking about.
Right.
I mean, it's not like I don't have any ideas for it. It's just not something that I would really share here right immediately.
Of course, right. What is your favorite survivor, killer, and alter ego? Or is it perhaps an upcoming one that you just like to say that you think will have an interesting design without saying the design?
My favorite survivor is not out, and my favorite killer is not out.
Ah.
But if I had to pick from the existing ones, I much prefer Husk over Catechus.
Oh.
I think Catechus is in desperate need of a rework, if I'm being honest. I don't like how he's designed. I think he's kind of...
It's very lame. It's like the worst to put it.
Yeah, he feels like underbaked. That's large in part because the thing about Catechus is that he was actually the first killer we designed before Husk.
Oh.
He was the first killer we designed, and he was the first killer who was ever put in the game. So his kit was kind of made to be ergonomic, right? Flexible, basically, just kind of like a test kit. And I think that's fine if he was a starter killer, but he is not the starter killer. Husk is the starter killer. And Husk is a good starter killer. I like Husk's kit. I think he performs good as a starter character, right? But Caddy, I would like to go back and do something with. So that's why I kind of prefer Husk. Sorry, I just brain farted. For the survivor's side, Toothy, easily. I don't actually really play him that much, but I really think Toothy is mostly it's his design. I just think he's funny.
Yeah, I fucking love the Toothy design. He just looks so stupid.
The one image of him where he's sad as all the toothlings are dead around him is the funniest shit. I have that actually set as my profile picture on my Ko-Fi account.
My God.
Or Coffee, however the fuck that website is pronounced. I don't actually know how to say it, but that's my profile picture. So whenever I
donate to me on broke account, thanks.
Yeah, whenever I buy something from an artist, they just see that sad Toothy image. So yeah, if I had to pick a survivor that I actually play whenever I touch alter ego, either Noob or Fjord, I just like stunning the killer. It's, maybe I'm simple-minded like that, but I think it's fun to whack the killer and make them angry.
Sit in a corner and stun. Wow, you are truly just the worst of the worst, aren't you? You're the type of Fjord to sit behind a corner, let someone run by, and then stun the killer. Just the worst.
I do that, and it works, and my team loves me for it. That's my statement.
The guy who's playing against you, if it wasn't for a certain Roblox update, would be screaming obscenities.
Actually, my favorite strat in alter ego is to hide behind corners on sword fights in the heights and knock the killer into the void with Fjord.
I've seen that done maybe once, and it's the hypest moment ever.
If you really lock in, you can do it pretty consistently, but you have to kind of bait the killer a lot because I think a lot of people have gotten used to avoiding it.
Interesting. Is there any upcoming content for alter ego that you are the most excited for? Again, no, I'll just say why, but is there any content you're most excited for?
The Maw, for one. I'm really excited for the Maw. No bias. Well, actually, hella biased because I did a lot of the Maw. I helped design the Maw, right? So I'm pretty excited for him. I hope that people like him, right? Because I think I did a pretty good job at creating an interesting killer that has a specific playstyle that I think people who like that playstyle will really enjoy, right? But I can't really comment on what he does yet. That's the thing. So when he does come out, I will see what people think of him. But I think I did a pretty decent job. Aside from the Maw, probably the Souls Shop, and just progression in general. I'm really excited to see how people, because I think a large part, another thing about why the game is kind of in a weird state right now is because it has no progression, right? So there's not really much for people to do beyond just running around and clip farming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that I'm really excited to see translated once we get closer to a final product, actual progression. Now, for characters, the survivor that I would like to see. Actually, since they're both on the roster, I can mention this. The survivor and killer that I am most excited for are B-Man and the Hunt. Those are the two that I want to see in the game.
B-Man seems like one of those characters that like looks like he's either going to be. He sounds like he's going to have a really you're going to look at him initially. He's probably going to have like a really overcomplicated kid.
We'll see. We'll see.
All right. Anyway, this one on a similar note, is there any upcoming content in TDS that you're excited for?
Oh, I'm rubbing my hands together for this one. The hardcore rework, easily. That is one of the things that I'm very excited for, and I think that it is going to be well worth the wait. Aside from that, some stuff that I can't say. What's on the Trello for TDS? A lot less than Alter Ego, I'll tell you that. Let me look at this. What can I talk about? Tower evolutions. That I'm excited for. I think that will be a lot of fun. I think people are, as a balancer for TDS, I am kind of worried about it, but I also think that it will be a learning opportunity for me. Let's see. Golden mode, I think, will be pretty cool. And generally, I think TDS has a lot of exciting stuff coming up. So I'm pretty indifferent about TDS compared to with Ego. There's specific things I can point out, but with TDS, just this whole year, I'm pretty excited for.
Well, that's good to have an out, and it's nice that there's a good outlook on this game, right? Its future seems stable. Your job seems stable, one might say. That's
definitely a question you could ask me. My job seems stable.
Anyway. Well, this question is about to throw that all into jeopardy.
All right.
The one you have been dreading.
Okay.
Everyone's favorite highly detailed question, one might say.
All right. Let's hear it.
The question is, how do you feel about the contributor towers and that whole situation?
Okay, so here's what I will say. I made a comment on Saltz's video trying to clear that situation up to the best of my ability, but here's what I'll say. I am a big advocate for content being not locked behind developers, right, in games like this. I don't think content should ever be locked. But there is as a someone who works on the game, right? I understand why they exist. I think the problem is less that they do exist and more what they are, mostly War Machine. See, the thing about Max Guard and War Machine is that I think with War Machine in specific, a lot of people were expecting something to come of that, right? Mostly because of old announcements. I'm not too tuned in on what the expectations for War Machine were. But from what I've heard, there was an announcement from a really long time ago that kind of confirmed that the tower was going to come out, right? And then now that's not happening, obviously, and people are upset. And I think that's reasonable for people to be upset about that. In the same vein, I also think that my take on War Machine personally, and people, may disagree with me on this, and that's okay if they do, but my take on War Machine is that I just think the tower is very boring from a design standpoint. It's just Commando, but I guess it looks maybe kind of cooler, right? I don't really see a lot of.
It's another point.
Yeah,
in Fire
it's
Tower.
it's another shoot in Fire Rockets Tower. We already have a bunch of those. We have Engineer, we have Commando, we have Military Base, we have. There's just a lot of them. It's just not a tower that I think, if it did come out, I just think it would be very, underwhelming unless we did something really crazy with it, which, personally, I don't really have any ideas for War Machine immediately. I will say this. I know why people are mad about it. I think they are fine to be mad about it. But as someone who doesn't really have a say on this, it's probably better that I don't make any promising comments about it or anything like that. People are free to have the opinion that they want on it. My opinion is that, personally, I don't see any, I don't have any big issues with it, but then again, it's not something that really affects me as much as it might affect other people who were excited for the tower, so I think everyone who has an opinion on it is free to have that opinion, and I think that they should voice their opinion
in a respectful manner, not harassing people or doing other stuff like that.
Yeah, obviously in a respectful manner. Everyone should be respectful of each other.
All right. This one isn't. This one is one I know you're not going to be able to answer. So I'm kind of just gonna leave it in.
I think I know what. I think I
as
know
like
what
a
this is.
hype moments and aura type shit. The question is, speaking of contributor towers, Mecha Base was not actually included in anything, right? Are there still any plans for this tower that?
I have an interesting answer for this one. Before you interviewed me, I spoke with Tyler about how I should answer some of these questions, right? When it came to the Mecha Base one, the answer that I was allowed to give you, the question is, are there any plans for Mecha Base, right? Mm-hmm. The question that I am allowed to give you is yes. Nothing else, just yes. What plans defines is up to your own interpretation.
So,
but the answer that I was allowed,
release,
the answer that I was allowed to give you is yes.
Death by sent to admins only, just plans. Okay. Oh, here's a fun one. Do you think the public bug report sheet has been an overall positive or negative for community sentiment towards developers and QA testers?
Ooh, okay. So the public bug report sheet was my idea.
Oh.
When I did the public bug report sheet, or I advocated for it, the idea was to improve community understanding of the flow of bug reports and the status of bugs.
Right.
I do think it has been an overall positive. However, I also think that sometimes people look at it and they see the humongous amount of reported bugs on there, and they get the wrong idea.
When 99% of those are literally just random skin bugs or Z fighting.
Yeah, and not only that, but also a lot of them are fixed now.
But haven't been.
And the reason we don't clear the bug sheet when bugs are fixed is because it's kind of just there for archival purposes, right?
Right.
But yeah, the bug sheet is I think some people look at it and they get the wrong idea, right? But generally speaking, I think that having that transparency, regardless of what people take of it, is good for the game. It is a net positive because it gives something for people to. It shows that we are looking to address these issues, right? And that's another thing that I was going to mention. I do want to start improving community relations. I would like to, if I had a say in it, I would like to bring back game suggestions.
That actually was just done for Alter Ego, actually, right?
Yeah, we did bring back game suggestions for Alter Ego. I would like to do it for TDS, not necessarily because we're planning to add community feedback. I would like to if someone has any ideas, right?
Right.
But not necessarily because we're looking to add it, right? But just because I think it's good for people to have a place to talk to us directly. Because I personally. Yeah, because personally, I do read game suggestions in Alter Ego, and I used to read them in TDS a lot. I think that it's interesting to see what other people have to say, right? So I would really like to bring back game suggestions for TDS. I think the reason they were even removed in the first place was due to struggle with moderating them. So maybe I would talk with the moderation team on how to improve that, but I would like to bring them back at some point.
That's very interesting, man. Okay. This one kind of harkens back all the way to kind of near the beginning of this, where we talked about QA processes, and particularly you said how a lot of the faults of bugs seeming to just slip through the cracks, fault on the developers. This is, I'm not sure if we can really fully answer this question, but it's more of a general, why do bugs often go unfixed? Again, you have medic bug and other things like that, or one crate being not available in people's inventories.
This is a hard question for me to answer because really it's not my place to talk on behalf of the engineers, right?
Right.
I think large in part, if I could make a statement that is pretty watered down for the sake of not, speaking on someone else's behalf, is that it's just that TDS is a game that is always moving. There's a lot of moving parts and cogs, and I guess maybe we just don't always have the time to address some of those issues unless they're immediately pressing. Because at the end of the day, we don't have infinite heads. We really don't. We only have so many programmers on the game, right?
Right.
And those programmers are always occupied with something, usually. And unfortunately, bugs just don't take priority unless they are actively hurting the game to a point where they absolutely need to. And I know that's not the greatest thing to hear, right?
Yeah.
But it is just the sad truth of game development. So like if I could say anything, it's that bugs, we do know bugs exist, and they're not like something that we just ignore, right?
Yeah.
Like they are known. But the backend rewrite should hopefully address a lot of issues with the game and bugs. So I would be looking forward to that.
Here's another one relating to bugs. What is the craziest bug in the entire history of TDS that you are allowed to talk about?
Oh, you mean like even stuff that never came out?
If you're allowed to, yeah.
Oh God. For a QA lead, I don't really actually think about bugs that often. Ooh. Well, the craziest one that did happen, probably, I would like to say, is the executioner bug. I think that shit was like batshit insane. I don't think a lot of people realize just how crazy the executioner bug was, because like you literally like had the power of God in your hands. Like there will never be a tower as broken as day one executioner if you think about it.
Nuke animation's so slow now. Holy.
I know why it is like that. I'll probably try to fix it soon. The thing about like bugs is that, yeah, like that's the craziest one I can think of that I came out. For stuff that never came out, I guess there was that one bug that you actually discovered with Medic, the infinite fire rate one.
Yeah.
That one was pretty crazy, but I can't really think of like any other ones off the top of my head. Like, I mean, I guess like I do. Yeah, I'm not really sure. That's a good question. I don't know if I have any like major bugs that I can immediately think of. There was definitely a lot over the years that, like the military base bug was probably, that's like my favorite bug of all time. The military base bug. That bug is hilarious in my opinion.
It was the OG timescale.
That is like the funniest bug in the game. Like I will never think I don't think there's ever going to be a bug as like funny as the military base bug.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Spaghetti code.
Spaghetti code.
All right. This is one of the last few questions. We're reaching the end here. This is one that I guess kind of concerns your position as well. It's how do you feel about the future of TDS?
I think TDS has withstood the sands of time. It really has been put through the the washer and the dryer, one might say. It's had a lot of, TDS is one of those Roblox games that has had a very, very, very varying history, right? Because TDS, so when TDS first started, as far as I'm aware, the game received pretty consistent updates, and then it kind of slowed down around the time the overhaul picked up major development. Right. And then after that, it was just a drought, barely anything for a very long time until 2023 kind of steadily picked things back up again. I know 2022 was much more refreshing than 2021, but I still think that it didn't really offer too much, right?
Zero updates.
But 2023 was kind of an improvement, and then 2024 was when we really actually got back into the flow of things, right?
I think there's one update if I had to point to. I think 24 nailed out of the park. To me, I think it was actually the Fallen rework.
Oh yeah, the Fallen rework was a lot of fun to work on. It was good.
It's not only that. I think the Fallen rework was also, or at least I found myself playing the game a lot more. I think it was when I think it's an update where a lot of people did end up coming back because again, I think you said this before, Fallen is again one of the most iconic game modes, and seeing it get a rework, I think probably would bring back a lot of players, considering it was the end game mode for basically the entire game's lifespan.
Oh yeah, no, Fallen. I would argue that I was honestly really surprised that the Fallen King received such a drastic redesign, because I feel like the Molten Warlord stayed pretty consistent glow up to the original Molten boss,
Yeah.
right? You could tell that it's a direct upgrade, but the Fallen King looks different. I'm really shocked that they didn't go for a more almost consistent design compared to the old Fallen King, right? That really did shock me. I do think the Fallen King looks way better now. Like I do like the new Fallen King model, but it did really surprise me that they went in such a different direction with this model compared to the original. I'm really, okay. Well, I will say this: I do know what the new Void Reaver looks like, right? But I can't really talk about it. But I will say that like it's one of those things where like I think it's interesting how the bosses change when the game modes get reworked, right? Because like really, if you think about it, of all the classic bosses that still exist within the game to this day, the Fallen King is the one that kind of got the most changes.
Yeah.
Compared to like the Gravedigger, the Gravedigger is literally just an upgrade. Like
Fallen King's not too different.
And then the Molten Warlord,
okay. Like yes, he's different because he's entirely like 3D model instead of whatever like Roblox Studio stuff he was before. But like he's still the same thing. He's still shield, sword, blue, kind of medieval crown.
He is, but I think what stands out is mostly like I think the thing that was iconic about the old Fallen King was mostly like the core blocks crown, right?
Yeah.
And there is translations of that in the new Fallen King design, but I think the thing that really makes it polarizing, almost compared to the old one, is like the face mostly. Like the armor is like excusable, right? But I think it's just like the fact that he has eyes now, right? And he has like a whole headpiece instead of just the crown. It's very different from what you would expect from Fallen King, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see your idea there. All right.
But yeah, we got a little off topic there. But like I said, like the future of TDS, in my opinion, is not something I'm particularly worried about. I think the game will continue to stay the way it is. I don't think that the game is going to die anytime soon, one might say. I think TDS has probably a much more loyal fan base than most would think.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like
yeah,
I've noticed a lot of people in my circle like always kind of end up coming back to this game no matter what. Like
yeah, and I think that's just because like TDS is such a like it's kind of an easy game to fall back on. It's like I said, like TDS is a very casual game at the end of the day, right?
It's casual, but it's still there still are those little sprinkles of elements that let you have skill expression.
Exactly. Like that's exactly, in my opinion, that shows like that the game
it'll have longevity.
Is in and yeah.
On the topic of like upcoming content and the future, here's a piece of content that's been kind of long forgotten. A lot of people have asked for it, and so I'm wondering now, will there ever be another golden perk?
So I actually kind of answered this question in one of Elite's videos last year, but I didn't really give him a promising answer. I don't have a yes or no to that, unfortunately. Here's what I would say, my opinion. I don't like golden perks really, but if I had to do another one, the one that I would do, I've said this before, is Golden Demo Man. I think that golden perks are in their best when they are. I think that golden perks are in their best when they are upgrades of really mid or bad towers, like beginner towers. Because then you can actually give them a purpose
versus like if you give it to like say minigunner.
Yeah,
minigunner's already going to be decent by design.
Yeah, so. Like golden minigunner and golden cowboy are very like contradictory towers in my opinion. I don't really like them that much, but like if I could do like a golden demo man, I think I could make that work.
Just like spitball some concepts if you would like.
But I don't really like the idea of doing another golden perk. It's just kind of like if I had to do one, that's the one I would do, and that's the one that I am most confident in. I feel like a golden demo man could actually be interesting to balance instead of just being kind of like pointless.
I mean, do we really have like actual explosive towers, like explosive focus towers? How many do we really have in this game? We have like what?
Mortar, Rocketeer, and I guess Bottom Path Pursuit are like the only ones that I can
like an archetype that
think of.
Really honestly used in this game. It's just one that's kind of been left for like explosives are part of towers.
It is an era of an older
explosives
time.
are part of towers, but they're never like the focus, right? Like NG has explosives technically. Get Pursuit has it. Bottom Path, but like Top Path also has explosives. Military base as well. But like none of them are ever the focus. Technically, I mean, Mercenary Base is like half focused and Mortar technically as well. So.
I feel like Mercenary Base is a stretch, though. That tower focuses on everything.
You could probably target this back. Mercenary Base and its design. What do you think of that tower?
I don't really mind it. I think it's just a nightmare to balance. Like I don't think the idea sucks with it compared to like other towers that I'm very vocal about, like Hacker, for example. I I think Mercenary Base is a little bit less obnoxious to balance around.
What do you feel like are the problems with it mainly when it comes to balancing it?
I think it's just got so many moving gears that like when you actually want to take a step back and like iron it out, there's a lot more that you have to think about than you probably initially think of, right? Like let's say like the most recent version of Mercenary Base was focused on removing the unit limit,
Yeah.
so stacking could be more consistent, right? But then there's like also the thing of like, oh well, how would that interact with the skill tree, right?
Yeah.
There's just a lot of moving parts that you kind of maybe don't think about initially, and then when you do think about them, it throws a wrench in how you want the tower to be balanced. And that goes for a lot of towers, but with Mercenary Base, it's very noticeable.
I can attest to this. It's a lot of kind of deciding whether or not you want the tower to be map dependent or not, because it's like, okay, a map dependent Mercenary Base is kind of going to have to be how the tower remains for all eternity, just based off concept. At least that's the way I see it. Like, because of how it works with stacking, unless you like simplify it all the way down to being like 1 or 2 units and basically just making it like a glorified DPS tower on the track, it kind of just ends up being completely map dependent. Like, for example, something like Lay-By, sure you have riot guards, sure you have damage buff, but it's like real power when it comes to stacking is just completely limited versus a map like Simplicity or Honey Valley.
Yeah, well, that's kind of why the damage buff exists and riot guards exist to help give the at the end of the day it is a level 150, right? 150 tower. So it is one of those things that like you want it to be strong, but like you said, like stacking is a really weird thing to balance on towers. So like there's only so much you can really do with a tower like Mercenary Base, and if you make like on this map, obviously on Simplicity, it's going to be insane, just because the map allows for crazy stacking, right, and it synergizes so well with the skill tree. But like on a map like Lay-By, like you said, it's not going to really do much outside of riot guards and I guess like the damage buff. But I think that's fine, right? Like I think that's all it really needs to do on those maps. And it's not like it's useless on those maps. Like I've used Merc Base on or I've used Merc Base for Lay-By before. Like it works. It's just not as powerful as it would be on.
It's like melee towers.
Simplicity.
It's kind of like melee towers as well. Like melee towers, for example, are weird in balancing as well because you end up with a lot of situations where they're just kind of they either feel really just too strong or they feel kind of whatever. Like I guess it's kind of a thing. Like Brawler, Brawler is a good example. Like Brawler on if you use
Warden, pretty much every melee tower.
Brawler, for example, on this map is like it can be pretty good versus like if you put it on a map again like Lay-By or anything where it doesn't really have like a good really good loop to take advantage of, or like Crossroads where you had doubles back on itself. It just kind of always feels like a whatever tower after, and there isn't really too much you can do about it because in concept it's gonna just end up like that. Yeah, fun things to think about when balancing, right?
Yeah, no. Mercenary Base is a tower that I personally don't really mess with a lot. I kind of leave that one up to QA. To rebalance that tower mainly because my take on tower balancing is that if I don't trust myself with making it feel intuitive and good to use, then I don't want to be the one who balances it.
Does the drop in player count ever give you fear over the future of the game?
No. Here's the thing about the game's player count being lower than average, right? Usually when that happens, it is during a time of day that, like, if you look at when TDS's player count is lower than average, and then go look at any other game that usually has a high player count, you'll see the same thing in effect. It's just because it's usually because it's either off hours or like during school hours, right? Like it's easy for someone to look at it and kind of cherry pick, right? I guess would be the best way to put it, because typically when the game has low player count, it is probably not for the reason that might first come to mind, right?
Like game isn't dying, it's just it has moments where it's gonna dip because there's no new content or other stuff, but generally the game is doing better than it ever has, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, well, the live event for Halloween was the highest CCU we've ever had. I think TDS is in kind of a like a second golden era, one might say, or at least it is. It is in a good state in its current like standing.
Honestly, no, like I can honestly agree with golden era. No, like I could agree with that. Like, like really new, like lots of new content, lots of new towers. Like it's not just that. It's not even just new content for new content's sake, like 2024, 2025, where like a lot of it was just like kind of whatever. It's like now you're starting to see new game modes, like new like avenues, like hardcore rework, PvP was added, like all that stuff. Like you're seeing lots of just actually new content that shakes up how you play the game. I think now is about the time to ask one final question, the big question. See, you can talk about, about bugs, about balance, about QA, about your position, and, that's all well and good. But I think this is a bit more important. A question that I have asked you a few different times, and I've never really gotten an answer, and so I've realized the only way to get an answer was to force it out of you. So, I ask, the final question of this legendary interview. What is your favorite Radiohead song?
So I could lie to you and tell you that it's a song that I've never actually listened to, right?
Right. But it's more fun if you say what it actually is.
I could open up Spotify and I could look at one of the song names and kind of just like get something from that, right? But the truth of OmegaBlade, the dark truth, the thing I've been hiding from you all this time is that I'm not a Radiohead fan and I don't listen to Radiohead.
What?
At all, in fact. I don't listen to Radiohead.
What?
I have been maniacally scheming this entire time to gaslight you into thinking that I am a fellow Radiohead fan. And this whole time, you've fallen into my hands and believed me.
But the profile picture, the profile picture.
Oh, but the profile picture. But you're a fool.
No.
You're a fool, OmegaBlade.
What is this? I don't remember this being in the game.
You're a fool.
What? No.
And you will pay for it. You will pay for it. Oh my god.
Where'd he go?
It's all a lie. It's all a lie, OmegaBlade. It's all a lie.
No, it can't be. It has to be true. It can't be.
It's all a lie.
That was like a year and a half of build-up. I waited like a year and a half for this.
Every single time I've shown you my interest in Radiohead, it's all been a lie, OmegaBlade. I don't care about Radiohead. I don't listen to their music. I don't even care. It's all been a grand scheme to make you make this interview so I can farm you for clout and views and push my agenda onto the people of Tower Defense Simulator. OmegaBlade 84. What do you think the Kreekcraft cameo was for? You think I just did that because I wanted to be funny? It was to improve my trust with you, to make you think that I was your friend, that I would be nice for you and give you a funny video to giggle at. When in reality, it was all to swindle my way onto the legendary OmegaBlade 84, the first victor of Solo Hidden Wave's YouTube channel. There is no Radiohead favorite song. There is no Kreekcraft cameo, and there is no Tower Defense Simulator hardcore rework, OmegaBlade 84.
What?
It's all in your head. All of it. Wake up. In all seriousness, my favorite Radiohead song is How to Disappear Completely off of Kid A.
That's a fair pick. Just before this video ends, I want to thank Nim for actually coming on and agreeing to this interview, and you, the viewer, for watching all the way into the end. So, subscribe!